Day 3 of the Faeries Oracle. Hello, everyone. So it's day 3 of me going through the Faeries Oracle, and I'm going to read from this book. And you see how for each card there's some beautiful text, and we see how for each card there's a portion for starter readings, right? And what it would mean on the reverse. So those are the portions that I'm going to read from, although I may paraphrase some bits so that it's more concise for the media, because I'm only taping for 15-minute or stuff anyway. Anyhow, I'm glad you could journal along, because this is what I'm doing here. I'm journaling. I'm video journaling my own learning experience, and I decided to post it publicly. I hope you don't mind that. So we're gonna start today's cards. So today's cards are actually these two. These two. The Bodacious Bodak, which I've tackled on the first day, but he came up again. Obviously, as a reminder for today, there's definitely someone or something that's but since I've already covered the Bodacious Bodak, I pulled another card to read, and the Topsy Turvets came up again too. So you can imagine just how much clutter that I personally have to deal with. So there is something to fix. But this one came out, Mike or Mick, the Myomancer. And so these are the two cards that I'm going to read for today. Our first card today is Fairies of the Future. Isn't that detail gorgeous? I think I could be staring at it for hours. Only we don't have all the hours. We have 15 minutes. So let's get on with it. Fairies of the Future. Be here now. Guidance. Moving forward. So this portion here describes card. And most of the text here describes the card as well. But there are some salient points here. Each of the individuals in the card, the individual fairies in the card, describe how we may possibly approach a decision to move forward. Do we let someone else decide? Are we being taken along for the ride, but it's not exactly our own idea, but we just went along with someone else's idea? Are we looking for an adventure? So we're open to someone else coming up with an idea and coming along for it. Or is it that we're sure where to go? Like the Gnome King here. He's sure where to go because he's well grounded in reality and he trusts his gut feelings. So he is relying on his gut sense to guide him, knowing that this is his magic and it will serve him better than logic in the unknown future. But for me, the goal here is to be as reliant on your gut as the Gnome King. And because of his steadfastness, if that's even a word, if I use that properly, others are likely to follow you or to follow someone who knows the way. I'll read this part now. Both humans and fairies are constantly adventuring into the future, being carried there by Old Father Time and Earth Mother, acting hand in hand. Even the galaxies spin into the future, creating strange effects in relationships between time and space and light. He who hesitates doesn't get lost. He gets dragged along. He might as well get up and hustle along too, because it's such a much nicer way to travel. These fairies are on an exciting journey to co-create the future with the universe, just as we are. They greet each rising dawn and each rising moon with unconditional and expectant gratitude. Join them. Brian writes, "These are the fairies of a bright future and are essential companions in any journey. When these fairies appear, it is time to consider where we have been and where we wish to go. There are many opportunities, many potentials, but we must choose a path and then take realistic, practical steps to bring the desired future into being. It's not a time to wait for things to come to us, but to step forward boldly to meet them. We may do this alone if we wish, or in the company of those who share our goals and dreams. And the reversed meaning is this: are you certain you're going in the direction you wish to go, or are you merely following someone else's lead without being clear about your own direction? It may be that you need to consider a parting of ways if the goals of others don't match yours, or if they seem to be headed in a direction that's not right for you. This is the moment to pause and consider your direction. Think where you would like to be and who you would like to be a quarter of a century from now. Ask yourself if the steps you're considering now are apt to take you closer to that goal or farther from it. Ask the wise gnome king to point a clear direction for you. Okay, card number 2 is Mike or Mick the Myomancer. Small clues, details, the messages everywhere. Patience. A Myomancer reads the past, present, and potential of all things in the movements of mice. And Mike the Myomancer specifically likes reading field mice because it gives him so much more detail. He just reads them better. He's just more enamored by them. So little things can tell us a lot. Is how this is relevant for the rest of us. Everything bears messages about the universe around us. Studying the details sometimes enables us to deduce the whole. The entire universe is one piece, and each fragment of that one unity, which is card 1, reflects and is connected to all the others. That famous philosopher Anonymous once said, "The lifting of a finger disturbs the farthest star." And Mike says it works the other way around too. He advises us to make a slow and observant study of the little things and their even smaller details in the world around us. He says that such study not only helps us enhance our understanding of life, unity, and everything, but it also helps to develop a joyful patience and a deeper philosophy. So, trusting our intuition to help us choose the direction forward into the future, and noticing the details. And here it's mentioned, the lifting of a finger disturbs the farthest star. That actually reminds me of the butterfly effect, or even the chaos theory. But to me, both these cards are very telling. It seems I'm about to embark on a new journey, and that I'm about to pick which way to go. And I'm supposed to be noticing the details, like paying attention to it, paying attention to the smaller details that I'm possibly overlooking. And the Bodacious Bodak appearing, these two are my picks for the day, actually, for myself. This means that I should be listening to my intuition or my own inner knowing, and not look messy for other people to want to clean up, because that's what Bodak is essentially about, the nuisance meddler. Also, incidentally, I've got more of the fairy challengers popping up for me in the last 3 days than I have of the rest. So obviously I'm going through, well, I wouldn't call it dark night, but I'm definitely going through some cycles here, right? An end cycle, perhaps. A lot of cleaning up required. Okay, now back to the starter reading for Mike the Myomancer. Attention to details is important at this time. Little things are not only important in themselves, but they also give you important information about larger things. Look for the inner hidden meaning in ordinary objects, happenings, and experiences. Life is trying to teach you something by speaking to you gently. With luck and application, you will get the message before it has to speak to you more loudly. Now, this one I've had a lot of personal experience with, because sometimes you say, oh, it's just a card. Nothing bad's really going to happen, right? And it builds up. All these little warning signs build up, and you kind of just shrug it off and not take it too seriously. And then one day, a huge tower moment happens And then you know that you should have paid attention to all those signs. You were warned, but you didn't. Sometimes, too, you pay attention to the little signs, but you obviously didn't do enough because a tower moment that rocks your world still happens. So it's about finding the right balance, I guess, and having the boldness to enforce those realizations and followed by actions. Yeah, of course, you right mind, right thought, right actions. When you say something, you think something, you follow it up with action. Otherwise it didn't really happen, right? There are instances, yes. There are instances where that applies. So back to the starter reading. Body language in humans as well as mice may give you very useful information at this present time. True, true. I love reading body language, especially if you learn to read it properly. The clues to the answers you seek and the things you need to know are all around you. You're surrounded by omens, portents, and signs, but the signs are not written on billboards in large letters. They're in the small happenings of your life. Be awake and aware. And there's a hint. If you work out what the question really is, it's much easier to recognize the answer when it comes. I'll definitely be paying attention to that. I'm loving this card too. Reversed. Possibly, we are ignoring information readily available to us because we think the source isn't important enough to pay attention to. Or perhaps we're seeing the messages and denying their validity because we don't like them. These are very human and not very wise things to do. On the other hand, we might need to realize that while everything has meanings, not all meanings are worth worrying about. Sometimes it's important to keep the broad picture in mind and avoid getting lost in the detail. If we feel confused by too many details and can't see the storm for the raindrops, we can try backing up and looking at our overall goals and situation. And those are our 2 card readings for the day. All right. What do these cards mean to me? First of all, the art is beautiful. There's so much detail. And then I'm not even going to attempt to figure out how many how many fairies are in this painting, but there's a lot of them. A lot. Like the entire space is filled up with fairies. And in this light, you see how they look so real. A beautiful card. Look at that. And they're all looking to my right, which is, well, I suppose that's the direction of the future. To go forward, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Well, not quite that, but just to take a step forward. Time to move, what it's saying. Coupled with like the Myomancer. It tells me a lot of things. There's all these little mice as well. Yeah, these little tiny noses peeking out from under the leaves because he prefers reading field mice. Not lost, but more like he's among them in order to observe them better. Sometimes you have to be immersed in a culture or immersed in a situation for us to have a better understanding of what's going on. Right? But the important thing is to not get lost, to keep in mind that you have a personal goal separate from the others. And that is what you're there for. Yep, the personal goal meaning the personal goal being to step forward in a way that's relevant to ourselves and trusting our intuition, our inner knowing about where to go. See the Gnome King right there, he's pointing the way forward. And she's looking at him like, oh, there, we're going there? Okay. And it's good to have company, and that sometimes too, not everyone is equipped, as Heinz likes to say, not everyone is equipped to join you on the journey or join you in the project. And it's okay to part ways. And it's important to not get too emotional about the parting of ways so that we preserve these connections, so we can keep these connections as much as possible. I'm also glad that I think I got the lighting right this time. That's it today. Thank you for joining me.